Nutrition is a really complex topic to get into.
True.
I think it's one of the coolest areas of science, but it's so complicated because every individual person has like unique nutritional needs. They respond differently to different foods, and sometimes you'll see an effect in one person and someone else will not show an effect at all. So before we get into the nutritional study of today, just wanted to have that caveat because it's a crazy field. And that's why you see all these crazy articles saying that if you drink coffee, it will cause cancer, or chocolate is good for you, or red wine is not good for you. All these conflicting opinions and thoughts. CNN recently reported that a study discovered that 1/3 of a glass of a sugary drink, whether that be soda or 100% fruit juice, that drink increased the cancer risk by 18%.
What?
And breast cancer risk by 22%.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How much?
18% of just regular.
How much a day?
One third of a cup.
1/3 of a cup.
Mm-hmm. So what we know about sugary drinks is that they are definitely linked to weight gain because of the sugar that's present in them. They're linked to more type 2 diabetes risk, hypertension risk, and also risk of cardiovascular and cardiometabolic death, which is basically your heart stop. And a study estimated that 178,000 deaths in both the cardiovascular and death from diabetes, that those could be linked to sugar drinks. Which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we in America especially consume a lot of soda, a lot of coffee with sugar, tea with sugar. I mean,
This is black.
yes.
I'm good.
People have also looked at artificially sweetened drinks to try and see, okay, that was kind of a reason why artificially sweetened drinks came along, is to say, hey, can we not have those sort of risks associated with what we're drinking? But interestingly, with artificially sweetened drinks, it's been shown that there's a higher risk of hypertension, obesity, and type 2 diabetes, and that there's also alterations in gut microbiota. So there's really not much changing by switching from sugary drinks to artificial sweetened drinks. The study kind of set out to address the question of, is there a link between sugary drinks and cancer? Because we know that obesity is a risk factor for cancer, and we know that sugary drinks can very easily cause obesity, but we don't know if there's a direct link between them.
Is it the weight gain, or is there something else why would sugar cause cancer?
They think mainly the weight gain and the obesity. And in this paper, they did not go into a mechanism, which is kind of what we always want to see. But it was more of an observational study. But in the past, there's been a theory proposed by Otto Warburg back in, I think he's from Germany in the 1920s. And he saw that cancer cells consume more glucose than non-dividing cancer cells. And within our body, cancer will choose to not use the high energy sugar pathway. Even though it would give it more energy to live, it would choose to use this lower energy sugar pathway because it prevents the immune system from recognizing the cancer. And this is called the Warburg effect. However, a lot of people say, hey, well, if cancer needs sugar, then just cut out all sugar. But if you think about it, any carbs turn into sugar in your body, and the rest of your cells still need glucose in order to live and divide. I think a lot of people use this sort of study to say, well, just go less sugar, and I think that's probably a safer way to go. But
so do people on the keto diet get less cancer?
Maybe. TBD in 10 years, since it's so popular right now. Getting back to the study, interestingly, it was funded by one of the biggest soda producing companies in France.
Oh.
Which they chose not to mention until the discussion. So when we see studies that are funded by a company,
like tobacco or
you still read the results and try and think logically and critically, but you also have in the back of your mind, someone is funding this.
At the end, an agenda.
Right. At the end of this paper, they said that the soda company did not have any bearing on the writing, on the reporting, on anything. They say that, but how much of that is true? And there's really no way to know that. So just in reading the paper, I thought, okay, there's this caveat to think about. So in the study, they looked at 100,000 French adults. The breakdown was 80% women, 20% men, which is a pretty big split.
Yeah.
You'd think that they'd try and get more 50-50. And what they did is they gave them 5 questionnaires. They gave them socio-demographic, lifestyle, dietary intake, physical activity, and health status, basically to try and see where these people are as a baseline. So when they started this study, the people had a dietary intake questionnaire, and every 6 months they would fill out this dietary intake questionnaire, which basically encompassed saying all the things you'd eaten in the past 24 hours. So trying to do a dietary recall.
So there's a second caveat. I mean, there could be a lot of reporting bias with this. Maybe people don't remember correctly or aren't totally truthful with the exercise, but...
And one interesting thing they did to combat that is they controlled for the dietary underreporting by trying to calculate, using people's like weight and health status. They calculated their BMI, so their basal metabolic index, to try and see what they would normally consume on a day-to-day basis, like what their caloric needs would be.
That's pretty cool.
And then people that consistently underreported, they dropped them out of the study.
That's awesome.
But
do you know if they were paid to be in this study?
I don't know if they were paid, but I could see there probably was some compensation. So I think they said 20% of people fell into this underreporting category.
Yeah.
So they threw those people out.
Goodbye.
But it's true, if you're trying to do any nutritional study, it's always, you're dealing with people, and most people don't write down what they eat every day. There's very few that do that. Every 6 months they had these dietary intake reports, and they actually followed these people for 9 years.
Wow.
They had quite a bit of data to look at. But what they've really focused on in this study was asking people what do they drink. And they defined sugary drinks, which is what most of the studies was based on, off of soft drinks, syrups, and coffee, 100% fruit juice, fruit drinks, sugar-sweetened coffee beverages, sugar-sweetened tea beverages, milk-based sugar-sweetened beverages, sports drinks, and energy drinks.
What about alcoholic drinks?
They did not include that into
like
sugar
cocktails
drinks.
have a ton of sugar.
Yeah. I don't think they did that here, probably because they might not be able to control for how different cocktails are made. But some of the energy drinks and stuff, they kind of say, okay, this is the average for most things. They're able to correlate these sugary drinks with the incidence of cancer in these people. And so cancer was self-reported, but once someone reported that they had cancer, the researchers checked with both their physician and the hospital to make sure that they were validating this cancer report. And they said, I think in 90% of cases, medical reports matched. So they could really see cancer compared to sugary drinks.
Wow.
But as I kind of mentioned before, this study is super observational, and there's no cause and effect that can be shown. It can maybe just be like, oh, well, there's a correlation. And correlation does not equal causation.
This is true. There's so many other factors.
Yeah.
But that really call in as confounding variables.
I know, if you tried to make like a mathematical model, you'd need like 20 different variables to account for things. The results they found from the study, and again, observational, not causation, they found that fruit juice, 100% fruit juice, and sugary drinks were linked with a higher risk of overall cancer. And I think the big surprise to people was that fruit juice was such a link. And
Seems healthy.
Yeah, it
Fruit.
does seem healthy. And I mean, I went and looked at, okay, what is 100% fruit juice? And most juice you get anywhere is 100% fruit juice. But if you think about it, that's, when you have fruit juice, you're losing all the fiber from the fruit. So you're just drinking a lot more. You may be drinking more apples and more grapes, but in reality, you're getting a lot more sugar with that as well. And some of the 100% fruit juice is back sweetened too. It's not always just the fruit itself. They also saw that there was an increased risk of postmenopausal breast cancer when consuming sugary drinks. And interestingly, they found no correlation with diet soda with any of the cancer risk. But they kind of had a caveat of not many people in the study drink diet soda. So they tried to say, we don't really have maybe the statistical power to say this is right. The women in the study had higher socio-professional and educational levels than like the general population. Okay. So you might be biasing because this group of people you're looking at, if they're more higher class, maybe they don't have as high a cancer risk because of they've had access to better food and better doctors. Yeah. One thing that people wish they would have done was measure not only BMI but also people's waist circumference, because I think we mentioned that BMI is not a great indicator back in our push-ups video of if you're underweight or overweight, because if you think of an Olympic power lifter, they're going to be really heavy, but they're like 90% muscle.
Right.
So that would have been interesting to have in this study. And they also did not control for glycemic index, which could have been really useful because when you drink a sugary drink, your glycemic index skyrockets because your body's trying to deal with all that sugar. So if they also measured that in people, that could give more of a correlation of, oh, the sugary drink spikes their glycemic index and now they have cancer, versus they had a sugary drink and their glycemic index is not changing at all.
Yeah. Does this mean we should all stop drinking fruit juice?
With most nutritional stuff, it's so complicated. I think it can give a really good indication of maybe a way to think or a way to change. I think most nutritional studies just say, hey, moderation, like don't go and drink energy drinks all the time. But it is...
Or like Juno with her Sunny D.
I love Sunny D. It is good to consider what the foods you're eating, what their nutritional value is, and even the drinks too, because it's really easy to go and get a Starbucks and 40 grams of sugar later, and you're caffeinated and very wired because of not only the caffeine, but also the sugar. Again, this study's observational, so we can't say that X caused Y or that sugary drinks cause cancer. And it'd be interesting to go into this further and look at more of a mechanism and see if there is really something that's happening in the body to do this. But that would require lots more study.